What's up, guys? We're really happy to be with you guys here. We got UFC 241 coming up. This is going to be an amazing card. I've been waiting forever for this. This is obviously headlined for the heavyweight championship between Cormier and Miocic. It's a rematch. But there's all types of fights on this main card to watch. And every single one of them are going to be great. We're actually going to start with what we think is going to be our favorite fight of the night. It's Yoel Romero against Paulo Costa with a little bit of bad blood there in the mix. So for everyone, tell them why you are so excited for this
I think
fight.
that fight was supposed to happen before, right? Like for a while, then I think injuries on both sides prevented it. But I'm really excited just for the visual that we're going to get when that fight happens, because I think these are pretty much the two most jacked guys, at least visually.
Yeah.
They're beasts. They're, Paulo Costa is pretty much a knockout artist.
Right.
That's his forte, and I think that it's just gonna be an explosive fight.
Right.
I wish it was probably longer, because 3 rounds it could go to a decision, but I would say most likely will not, because of just the power both guys have.
Yeah, I'm going to have to say this will probably be a KO or a TKO. Someone's going to get caught with something. Paulo Costa lands an exorbitant amount of strikes per minute. He's got 8.83 there. And his absorbed per minute is also pretty high at 5.79. So clearly he likes to brawl. I think the biggest difference we're going to have here is the Olympic level wrestling of Yoel Romero. It's going to be enough to control if the fight stays standing or if it goes down to the ground. And with that smothering type of grappling in the first round, it'll be the smartest way for Yoel to get a lot of blood into the arms of Paulo Costa and get him tired. And wrestling is the best way, because wrestling cardio is just completely different than anything else. I think you make him engage in that. Yes, the takedown defense is good for Paulo Costa. I'm not saying Yoel needs to throw a takedown at all costs, but I expect him to try to take this down and control whether the fight's standing or not, which will help him control dictate the pace of the fight, which is very important in a fight between two guys that are carrying a lot of muscle.
Yeah, I agree. I think definitely we're gonna see a takedown from Romero. I mean, the way I see it is probably forward pressure. They're gonna stand and bang for a little while, but again, I don't think that's gonna last for too long.
Right.
And Romero, if he's the smarter fighter, which he is, and he's more experienced, and he's an amazing wrestler, I definitely think we're gonna see some takedowns out here.
Yeah, definitely. And from the betting perspective, obviously, let's keep that in mind here. We got Yoel Romero as the slight favorite, so that's where that's at. Honestly, if I had to go and put some money down, I'd probably put my money on Yoel Romero here, just because I like the fact that whenever it's close like this, you got two power punchers, and there's one of them that's really good at, like, has got Olympic level wrestling, and the other one hasn't really faced any kind of a wrestler. Again, like Uriah Hall for Paulo Costa before. Johnny Hendricks, but it's not the same Johnny Hendricks that we're talking. This is from 2017 when he had no right being in the ring. And that was actually a pretty vicious knockout. So I want to see some real guys fighting. And like we've seen Yoel Romero's his resume is impeccable. He's only lost 2 very, very, very razor thin decisions to Robert Whittaker, and then everyone else he's beating legends like Jacare Souza, Chris Weidman, Luke Rockhold, guys that were at the top. And this is a good resume to have, and this is the first big test for Paulo Costa, and I just think that he might need to take 1 step back to take 2 steps forward after this, and Yoel Romero is probably going to hand him his first professional loss.
And I think that even if Paulo Costa loses to Romero, that's not a complete loss for him, because there will be a good experience for him to take maybe forward in his career, in his next few fights. I just think Romero is such a veteran, and I would definitely put my money on Yoel. If you wanna, maybe chase a bit of a return there, you can try betting on Paulo Costa, because you never know, a knockout might happen. But yeah, I think that definitely bet on Yoel and parlay it with some other fights.
100%. That definitely want to parlay that with something else, and that next something else will be our next fight that we want to talk about. This one is going to be a barn burner. This is going to be I think this is one of the truest coin flips out here. This is one that is a very difficult one to place a wager on either side. I mean, it's a 51-49 consensus in favor. Like, it's crazy. So,
dude, I watched all the. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I just watched all the media stuff before that fight. First of all, I gotta say I'm so excited to see Nate Diaz back
Oh my
in the
God.
octagon. Love Nate Diaz. I think just there's something, that charisma that he has, which is a weird type of charisma in his particular case, but it just translates so well. I think he's got so many fans now.
Right.
It sucks that he didn't fight for 3 years, something like that. It's been
he was out
since
he was out for a while. I mean, look at McGregor. His last fight. That
was 3 years ago.
And McGregor hasn't done it in a hot minute either. So let's think about that.
Correct. So yeah, man, I'm super excited to see Nate. I mean, he's 34 years old now, so he should definitely be in the octagon now. Yes, he's one of the most old school fighters out there.
Yeah,
definitely. But it's gonna be a tough fight because Anthony Pettis is moving. Well, he already moved up and knocked out Wonderboy, which was amazing and unexpected.
Right.
But I think that Nate Diaz has been away for a little too long. Although he says he's been training like regular, like crazy, and you never know with Nate Diaz, man. He's just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, for Nate and Anthony, when you really kind of break this down, there's a 2013 whole underlying beef where they were calling each other out while they're both lightweights. Now they're both welterweights. So Anthony Pettis just made his welterweight debut against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, and he knocked him into next week. Yeah. So Anthony Pettis is going to be closer to his natural weight, but Nate Diaz is also he's been slick, and most importantly he's been recovering the last little bit. You're not getting into huge fights. Okay, well that's some time off. And he was a very, very busy bee, as was Anthony when they were younger in the company. So this is going to be a very interesting. This is a fight a long time in the making. I mean, significant strikes. This is going to be a barn burner. It's hard. What do you got?
Let me put it this way. I don't think, even though we've seen Pettis have power against Wonderboy, that was amazing, right? I don't think he's knocking Nate Diaz out. I just don't think so. I don't think that's possible. Nate Diaz is one of the hardest chins in MMA. I just don't see that happening. Maybe Pettis can get a decision. I think that's possible.
If he could. If
he keeps pressuring forward.
He's pressuring and not throwing everything behind the
correct.
strikes.
And it doesn't get maybe taken down. Nate Diaz is not going to take him down, but maybe pull him into his guard or something like that happens where a submission could pop off. So my two main choices would be either a decision for Pettis or a submission victory for Nate Diaz. I don't see Nate Diaz winning it by decision as well.
Right.
So these are my two options. The more likely option would be Pettis winning by decision.
Right.
If I have to be honest, if you want to be a more safe kind of bet and stuff like that, do that.
For
if
sure.
you want to risk a little bit, betting on a submission for Nate Diaz is gonna give you some money as well.
Especially if Pettis can score like a knockdown, like if he can score a wobble. That would be very, very beneficial, especially when it comes down to that decision, like you were talking about. Nate Diaz is a tough cookie to crack in terms of knocking him out, so I agree with you on that front as well. And those two outcomes seem like they're pretty much the best options. Is Nate Diaz gets a little submission in there and makes something happen, but I just see Pettis too much of a gamer, and he's too tough because Nate Diaz usually out-toughs people.
Right.
And this is equal toughness with a little bit more technique and dynamic striking with Anthony Pettis. And that's it. It's going to be a war. It's going to be one of those. But what I am interested to say as well is, remember, McGregor came up and had his debut against Nate Diaz in 170. It was a wake-up call. Because RDA had to pull out.
Yeah.
So when he went up and that was his first time, it wasn't against, say, for example, Pettis with Showtime Pettis going and fighting Stephen Wonderboy Thompson.
Yeah.
So he beat him, but again, this is your second fight. You looked good against Thompson, really crisp.
Yeah.
Now against Diaz, who's going to try to put a different level of pressure because Stephen Wonderboy is a counter striker. Well, if you're sitting there get in your element, striking's not as difficult because you get to fire off whenever you like, and now you just worry about his counter striking. Yeah. Whereas Nate Diaz, this guy's going to come at you. It's a completely different fight. But we've seen Anthony Pettis in these fights before, and it's going to be a war. And I think the decision by Pettis is the best opportunity for you to take.
I think he's going to be more dialed in currently, Pettis, just because he's been fighting so much lately and fighting all these crazy good fighters, So, Tony Ferguson, Stephen Thompson, Chiesa, Poirier, Jim Miller. I mean, come on. The guy is just being around. And that's, he's been consistently fighting pretty much.
Right.
As opposed to Nate Diaz, who, of course, also is such a veteran and fought amazing fighters as well. But
when he fought, is that Michael Johnson right there?
Yeah.
When he fought, that was lightweight.
That was lightweight.
Lightweight, yes. Right? So he came up to 170 at the same time as Conor McGregor when he beat him.
Right.
And then he fought him again at 170.
That was right before Conor.
Right. It was right before Conor. He went up to they just went and matched each other like that. Yes. And then he stayed at 170 and fought in the rematch, and now he's fighting at 170 again. Yeah. So he's been chilling. I'm interested to see how his body looks. Not necessarily he's going to get D's, but I think he's going to be able to just like keep on that extra weight that he was cutting before.
I think his
cardio is going to be even better. It's going to be scary, man. And Anthony Pettis, we all know what this guy's. We're looking rejuvenated out here. And what is also dangerous is Anthony Pettis doesn't usually get into like personal spats with people, but this is something he really wants. He really wants, and Nate Diaz wants it bad too. So. Like you said, he wants to fight the guy in the Wheatie box.
Yeah, that's right. So, I don't know, man. It's going to be a competitive fight. I don't want I'm rooting for Nate Diaz for most part just because I like him so much. But safe bet would be putting your money on Pettis at this current time, I would say.
Yep.
Yeah, guys.
And then the main event of the evening, obviously, will be Daniel Cormier taking on Stipe Miocic. I mean, Daniel Cormier's only loss in his entire career has been, professionally at least, has been to John Jones both times. One's a no contest now, and the other one's a loss, even though we both know he just lost. So, Stipe Miocic lost his last fight, which obviously was against Daniel Cormier here. This is why it's a rematch. Stipe Miocic just recently had broken the all-time defense record of 4 title defenses by Cain Velasquez. Sorry, I think Cain had 3 and he got to 4. Then he had the record, and then he lost to DC. It was a competitive fight. It was going back and forth, and Stipe was holding more than his own in that fight, and he had a double underhook on Daniel. Daniel went and swept underneath, swam under, and used that momentum of stepping out to his left to throw the right hook, and knocked out Stipe with a flash knockout, because it's the ones you don't see coming. Stipe got caught, and whenever I see a first fight where someone got caught, I'm not saying whoever won the first fight isn't going to win. That would be stupid. But what I am saying is that first fight is not going to be any indication of what you're about to see this Saturday. It's a completely different story altogether.
What I saw in the first fight, and I rewatched it a few times, is now looking back, honestly, up to the knockout, I think DC had his hands full. Now I heard an interview of DC just recently saying, well, yeah, that's how I always start the fight, slow down to get the other person's timing and all that stuff. And I mean, I get that totally. We know of fighters that start slower and they build up. DC is one of those type of fighters. But I got to be honest, man. It looked like Stipe had a lot of pressure on DC in the first fight before he got knocked out. It turned into a little bit of a brawl. I think that was a mistake on Stipe's part a little bit. I think he got a little emotional, which is hard to say about Stipe because he looks like the most unemotional fighter out there.
Right.
But I don't know. He just kind of started trading punches with DC. And DC needs that. DC needs Stipe to get involved because Stipe is the bigger guy,
to engage.
DC wants to cut that distance and get in the clinch.
100%, and that's the biggest thing is fighting as a champion. You kind of gotta fight with that style to come get it. You want the strap? Come get it from me. Come to me.
Yeah.
And he went to DC, and he brought it to DC, and he didn't the body language of the way that Stipe fought was he was fighting for the championship in terms to gain it. No, he wasn't fighting as if he was defending it. When you're defending the titles, come get it. You want some, come get some. What does Max Holloway say? What does Khabib say? They'll say, they come to me. Even if their style is go to you and literally physically grab you, it means what I'm saying is implement your strategy. Do what you do. What you normally do is not barrel forward toward a wrestler. And that's what happened. You started getting into dirty clinch, and you made a mistake, and you got caught. And you know what? You're gonna either react positively or negatively to that. And if he fights emotionally again, I'm not gonna like his chances.
Yeah, and I don't think we've seen any takedowns in the first fight. Was there?
No,
they didn't even attempt any. I don't think, from what I remember. But to be honest with you, I don't think anyone's taking anyone down. Even the amazing DC, we'll have a hard time taking the Stipe down because Stipe is a wrestler too, and he's really bigger.
He's
and
6'5". There's a 6 foot.
Yeah.
6 foot. There's a 6-inch advantage there standing, and the reach, the 80-inch to 72.5. I mean, that's a huge disparity.
He looks so much bigger.
He's just a longer. Because the thing is, Stipe Miocic is he's built like he plays in the NFL. You know,
Sure.
He's built 6'5", 2 foot. If he was in the NFL, he'd be 265 or something,
Right.
and he'd be a linebacker because he's 6'5".
Yeah.
And Daniel Cormier is 5'11", short and stocky. So you got this reach advantage. You can be popping him from the outside. You don't need to go and close the distance like that. So if he manages his distance, manages his emotions, he's gonna be in a great position to go and push DC to deep waters.
Yes.
And DC's gonna be able to push him to deep water. So I think if we get the best from both of these guys on the same night, this is gonna be a war. And it's gonna be a technical war.
I hope it goes to 4 or 5 rounds.
That's what I think.
I hope so, and I think that's a lot more possible now. I don't think we're seeing an early knockout. You can never predict that, obviously,
Right.
but I'm just saying Stipe should be a lot more prepared for something like that. He's gonna definitely
Caution.
be aware that he can get
Right.
knocked out by DC. So, yeah, I think it's gonna be a very competitive fight. Maybe 4th, 5th round. Finish for DC, man. I don't know, a submission for. I don't know. Even that's such a hard prediction to make, right?
I have, for my prediction, I'm going to say Stipe Miocic wins. He's going to win via TKO in the 4th round.
TKO and retires DC.
He's gonna end it.
Wow. Okay.
I think he's gonna.
You know what?
He's gonna put it down because what I'm saying is, DC might get caught, and we have seen him.
Sure.
We've seen his tendency. The first strike he dips out to his
dips
left,
out,
and then the second strike he dips underneath and sweeps the head around.
And that can be timed by someone.
If you have crisp boxing, Stipe comes in and wants to be clinical and say, "Give me my belt back." That's all I want is my belt back. Like, okay, well, we'll see then. You know, DC saying things like he's kind of not looking past him, but he's talking about John Jones. He's doing. We've seen this before.
I was gonna say I had a thought while I was watching the media stuff. It was just like DC's so focused on media now. He's so focused on his career as a commentator and all that stuff. He's literally talking about retirement, looking past at John Jones, something that probably might not even happen.
Right.
So, you know, he's just
all Stipe wants is that belt.
His focus is a little
His energies are spread too
I think
far.
so, man. At the same time, all the footage I saw of Stipe was on the freaking, whatever that machine was called, and just like working out and just, not even doing interviews or anything like that.
And when you make a flash knockout and you lose your belt like that, you want nothing back more than just to run it back. And he's been waiting for this the whole time. DC said it himself. I know how it feels to have that devastating loss or whatever, and blah blah blah. It's like, yo, dude, honestly, like this guy might be one of those different guys where it's like that rematch is all he needs because he's focused, right?
Let me put it this way. I think if Stipe does not get finished, Stipe wins it. Like he finishes or decisions, DC, which is kind of a general whatever.
You need a result.
But I just think that DC can only bank on pretty much finishing Stipe. I think so. Either submission, either getting him super tired towards the 4th, 5th round, and maybe like taking his back out of like Stipe being so tired or something, and choking him out or something like that. But I would actually put my money on Stipe. Stipe is the dog, right? Or Stipe is the favorite?
I believe DC is the favorite, and he is.
Yeah.
It's a slight favorite depending on where you're betting. It's really
it's
not
super
much.
close though.
You're splitting hairs with pretty much. That's what's great about this is you're splitting hairs with all these different fights that are up here. These top 3 fights. You're splitting hairs. You're gonna be tight matchups.
You can either do a couple parlays where you like just do a couple variations of the fights, or standalone bets where you bet on some of the dogs like Stipe. Because it like, you know what I'm saying, it is possible. It's very possible. So
this is one of those real difficult
bet on
ones
the
to
dogs.
call.
I don't know. For me, my kind of advice would be bet on the dogs in this card. I feel like you can make money.
Right. If you go for Stipe and Nate Diaz, and you're saying to go for Paulo Costa.
I'm not saying necessarily do them in one line,
but
like in one
you could
parlay,
take one or even 2 of those and not really.
But see, maybe you can combine a couple or do separate bets. Yeah.
A couple different permutations. See what you can do about those, and it'll be fun. It'll be a nice little.
All you need to know, the fights are going to be super close.
Seriously.
It's a good card. We haven't had a card like this in a while.
100%. We even got some sick fights like Raphael, Assunção versus Cory Sandhagen. And I think that's going to be a good fight. Now, Raphael Assunção is ranked 3rd in the division, and Cory Sandhagen's a guy. I think he's 9-0-1 or something like that. So he's he's pretty good too. And this is going to be one of those. It's one of those fights where you just know it's going to be a barn burner. It's going to be guys throwing strikes.
Yeah, I think
mixing in the wrestling, and Sandhagen's going to be mixing in a little bit of grappling. He has like an even distribution of the KOs, the knockout, the KOs, the submissions, and the decisions. So he is willing to go anywhere with the fights.
Wow, and Raphael Assunção is the dog.
The underdog, and he's actually ranked third, and then Sandhagen's ranked ninth or something or seventh.
That's a good bet. I would definitely make that one.
Right.
I would bet on Raphael Assunção.
Yeah, you could definitely see that happening, right? That's some smart money right there on Raphael Assunção. Now, obviously, they're giving Sandhagen that much hype, which means they must think this guy's going to be doing some special stuff in the cage.
But we've seen a lot of hype
before
not live up to the expectations, so you never know. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah, let's look.
Assunção's coming off of a loss to Marlon Moraes.
Sure.
And then, but like other than that, he beat Rob Font. He beat a few other guys before that.
And he beat Moraes a while ago.
A while ago, yeah.
So that was the rematch he lost.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then Cory Sandhagen beat John Lineker. And I forgot which Bautista that is, and then Alcantara as well. So, I mean, like, these aren't, like, the household type of things.
I would say Lineker is the biggest name, obviously.
If you look how many strikes Cory Sandhagen is landing, he's landing a shit ton of strikes.
But I think Lineker was on the way down. So, yeah.
Exactly.
I would say, I don't know. I see Assunção as, like, just a very possible winner of this.
I'm going to say Assunção is going to just take him down and kind of control him and just grind him out. He's going to not want to get engaged in that high-volume striking from Cory Sandhagen. And if Raphael Assunção can control the fight and keep it on the ground and him on top, then it's going to be a good opportunity for him to do that. But his takedown offense isn't great, and Cory Sandhagen's takedown defense isn't great. So if this stays standing, I think Cory Sandhagen's probably going to take this one. It's 5'5" versus 5'11".
Yeah.
There's a good reach advantage. that's a good leg advantage there, too, as well. So Cory Sandhagen's going to be able to attack from the outside and dictate the pace in that way. He's 11-1 for just to set the record straight.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be very interesting. He's a fluid guy. He's a switch fighter. So we'll see how that goes. But yes, Assunção is also a guy ranked high in the division who's never really shown the ability to go and win the title, but at the same time, he's never been knocked into that top 5.
Sure.
So he's being a gatekeeper of sorts for Cory Sandhagen, who has a lot of hype behind him. I think Cory Sandhagen's going to win the fight, but it doesn't hurt to go and put a bet on someone like Assunção, who's an underdog, as a third-ranked fighter in the division, taking on number 9.
Yeah, I would definitely, if you have the extra couple bucks to maybe risk it and try Assunção, I would do it as a standalone fight or something like that.
Yeah, I would definitely go with Assunção just by itself.
Yeah.
And take the extra money to try to, just in case you parlay the Cory Sandhagen, for example, and then you have that as part of your thing, you can try to make some of your money back by using that fight.
Don't forget, Assunção has a lot more experience, so that's going to be something. And I think he's a very tough guy. So, if you want to risk it, maybe throw some money there.
Also, don't forget about Sodiq Yusuff versus Gabriel Benítez.
Oh, yes. We actually watched some highlights.
A new Nigerian nightmare is on the rise here.
Another Nigerian.
Like, this is some crazy stuff right here. So, again, for 145-pound division, Sodiq Yusuff, he just fought Shaman Moraes, who is a black belt and a champion in Muay Thai, in kickboxing. So, this is a seasoned vet in terms of striking, and he went punch for punch with this guy, knocked him down in what was a very close fight. And they went the distance, and it was an amazing fight. Sodiq got to show his ability of his cardio, his ability to absorb strikes, and his ability to dish damage back, especially late in a fight. That's amazing to have that level of cardio and coordination to be able to still land like that. So it's going to be very interesting. Now, I think Gabriel Benítez is one of those guys where, in terms of grappling, he's gonna try to take it to the ground. He's gonna try to throw some submissions up there. But I see Sodiq Yusuff as a guy who hasn't been taken down in the UFC at all yet, and he's gonna use that to his advantage to keep it standing.
Yeah.
And he's gonna land a lot of punches.
Yeah. First of all, Gabriel Benítez, wasn't that the coach of Liverpool for like the longest time? Remember?
Yeah.
Remember Gabriel Benítez?
That's so funny.
I just remember that. I was
God.
like, what? Was he Gabriel as well? Yeah, he was.
That's it, man.
Gabriel Benítez.
There it is.
The ex-Liverpool coach.
That's so funny.
Yeah, just had a flashback of those years.
I love it.
Anyways, also Gabriel Benítez, the fighter, looks like he was stabbed in the abdomen or something.
Yeah, dude,
like literally looks like he was
across
shanked.
the
I don't know.
Ab, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Looks like a big one. But anyways, man, I think because we watched all the highlights for Sodiq and all that stuff, I think it's gonna be very hard to take down. And I think he's just very explosive on the feet. So explosive, very tenacious. I don't think he's easy to knock down or anything like that.
Right.
I think he's gonna have a lot more power than Gabriel Benítez, and I would bet on Mr. Sodiq Yusuff.
Yeah, he's the heavy favorite coming into the fight, and I would use him on a card.
On a parlay.
I would use him on this card and as a parlay for sure, just because you need something that you know is going to probably happen, and right. I think this is one of the only locks on the entire card, so I would go ahead and use that as well, and just splice that into something else.
Sure. Yeah, I wouldn't risk and bet on Gabriel Benítez here as the dog. I just don't think that's gonna happen. I don't see that win for him. That's all.
That's it.